welcome inside the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. It's Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus. It is the Flyers game day show as the Flyers are right back at it today. Today to host Le Montreal Canadiens, Le Habitant in the house tonight. Means double anthem.
Do you have any more?
That's all the French I have.
Okay.
You, sir.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to check. We don't want to overlook that.
Actually, did I say yes, sir?
Maybe.
No, I don't have more else. I need to say no, sir. Negative.
Yeah.
Flyers and Canadiens. Canadiens right now coming into this game have the highest odds to land the number 1 overall pick. But when the season's over, they may not. Why is that? Because Marty St. Louis has been coaching them and doing a pretty damn good job. They're playing much better. 7-2-1 over the last 10.
I mean, it is hard to overstate the degree of this turnaround. And, so many people have written this team off so long ago, and you can continue to write them off because they're not coming back. But they had won 4 games in 3 months when that coaching change happened.
Holy.
And now they've won 7 of the last 10. Just like that.
Deshaun only won 4 games this year?
Well, no, he had won 8. So they had 8 wins at the start of this current run that they're on. And I don't know if that directly correlated with the coaching change or not. So he only had 8 wins this year.
After going to the Cup final.
Yeah, after going to the Cup final. But in the 3 months before the firing, they won 4 games. So that's how bad it was in Montreal. Now, granted, they didn't play as many games in that stretch as some other teams. They were still stuck in, the Canadian restrictions, and when the calendar turned, Canada kind of put the kibosh on fans, and so they started postponing games. In fact, the Flyers were in Montreal and played in front of no fans in a game where
we called it like 4:30.
Fans were showing up into the parking lot for the game, and they were being told, "Oh, sorry, you can't come in." That's how quickly it was. And then after that, Montreal started postponing home games until they could get fans back in the building. So it has not been a normal year for the Canadiens by any stretch of the imagination, but they were playing bad long before that happened. So, yeah, it has been a very, very unexpected year in Montreal.
Yeah, so right now, as the worst record in the league, the Canadiens have a 25.7% chance of landing the number 1 overall pick. Now, they can't pick outside the top 3 with the new lottery reform. They can 18.7% chance at number 2 and a 55.6% chance at the 3rd overall pick.
Okay.
Seattle is the second highest odds at 12.1, Arizona at 10.9, Buffalo at 9.7, and are they still winning? Buffalo's beating Toronto today in the Heritage Classic. And the Flyers at 8.5% to land the top overall pick. The Flyers, if it finished today, which it doesn't, could only land the 1st or 2nd pick in the draft at 8.8% for number 2, and then either 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Right.
So that's the way they kind of take it.
Yep. And it's still, everybody's talking about how the trade deadline's coming up, Flyers can get assets, things like that, and you want to obviously not wait, but it's still a weird time right now in terms of trying to draft hockey players because you're still dealing with a crop of guys that have not played normal hockey very much in the last 2 years. I think most of the leagues are back to normal now, but but still, the Russian, that's a mess. But the development is still a little bit stunted, right? You still got guys that have lost a year or 2 years of development depending on their age. So, the next year's draft, to me, as of this moment, not knowing what else is coming in the world, which could be anything these days, but the 2023 draft is still a lot more of a stable situation to me, and it's supposed to be a lot deeper draft. So, the Flyers may end up with some picks this year, but they, a lot of teams they want to trade with don't have first-round picks coming up this year, so they may end up deferring to next year. So, it's going to be an interesting draft overall. Flyers are missing some of their own picks in this draft.
Second.
Because of last summer's trades. But
only one, I think, though. I think it's only one this year.
I think you're right.
The Ghost deal to Arizona, they sent a second.
Right, yeah. And I can't remember what went back to Buffalo for Ristolainen, but there are some picks that are not there right now for the Flyers. They could recoup. I could definitely see them moving a lesser piece like a Justin Braun or something like that for a pick this year.
and get a second.
Yeah, maybe they package them to move up, stuff like that. So, we'll see what happens. But, this is going to be a draft that, will be a little bit of a crapshoot, kind of like the 2021 draft was.
So this year they have all their picks with the exception of that second rounder, which they traded to Arizona for with Gostisbehere, and also a 7th round pick from this year's draft. So they don't have a 7th pick as well.
Oh, no.
2022 draft. Yeah,
that's this year.
And then
it's so hard to keep track right now.
They have an extra 7th this year anyway. And next year in 2023 they don't have a 2nd because they used that to acquire Rasmus Ristolainen along with Robert Haig and last year's 1st round.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember there being a 2nd going back to them, but I couldn't remember for sure where that was.
Yeah, so we'll see what they can recoup either in this draft or next year's draft with the guys like Braun, obviously Drew, Jones, maybe Broussard. We'll see what happens over the next now 8 days, if you can believe it. The trade deadline's right around the corner.
Coming up this next week, from now until a week from tomorrow. It's going to be a heck of a week. We've got 1,000 games coming up on Thursday for Claude Giroux, and then buckle up next weekend because it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
It's such an important time too.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Just you look at the teams that are trying to add to kind of put themselves in a better position to push all in and win a cup. But for the teams like the Flyers that have multiple pieces that may be desirable, it's important in a whole different way to move forward.
Right. The 07 through 12, let's put it that way. So the 07-08 final cup conference finals run, the 2010 Stanley Cup final run, and the Atlantic Division Championship in 2011. None of that stuff happens without the foundation that was set in place on the day of the trade deadline in 2007, when the Flyers had their worst season ever. And this right now, I think points-wise, is the lowest the Flyers have been at this point since 2006, 2007. But that's when they traded Peter Forsberg to Nashville, and they got Ryan Parent and the picks, and then they ended up flipping the picks back to Nashville for Kimmo Timonen and Scott Hartnell, and the rest of that is history. So this is huge in terms of laying the foundation here for the next 5 years or so for this franchise.
Now, I always say, it's not who you play, it's when you play them, right?
Right.
And you look at Montreal and you go,
it's not a good time to play.
Yeah, oddly enough, they're a mess this season.
Yep.
They've just been a total gong show. We talked about it right off the top. They've won 15 games of 58. They're 15, 35, and 8, 38 points, worst in the NHL. They've lost their last 2. They're 7-2-1, though, however, in their last 10. The Flyers in their last 10 are a team that they played much better hockey. 58 games played, 18, 30, and 10 on the season, 46 points, so 8 up, 3-6-1 in their last 10. But you look at these two teams in their last 10 games, like I said, Montreal 7-2-1, and they're +7 in their goal differential. 37 goals for, 30 goals allowed. The Flyers over their last 10, 3-6-1, 23 goals for, 35 goals allowed, -12 in goal differential.
Yeah, that's it's kind of bizarre how all of a sudden they can flip a switch like that with the, it's the same team that Marty St. Louis had that
minus Tyler Toffoli
that they had the rest of the season, but minus Tyler Toffoli and they've been able to certainly figure it out with a whole different approach to things. So, it's good. This league is better when the Montreal Canadiens are competitive. This league's better when the Philadelphia Flyers are competitive. It's a couple of franchises that you don't want to see down there where they are right now. So, it is good to see them turning the corner, and hopefully we're awaiting the same thing for the Flyers.
Yeah, these are two teams that fans around North America, around the globe, are not ambivalent on. They look at them and they go, you don't go, Flyers, whatever, or Montreal, whatever. You either love them or you hate them. There's not ambivalence when it comes to the league's better when the Rangers are good.
Yeah.
The Flyers in Chicago, Detroit, good hockey markets. Frankly, the league's better when Buffalo is good because that's a great hockey market.
Yeah, and that's been some time, unfortunately. You saw that coming, and this is again, we've talked a lot about analytics lately, but that was going back before analytics in the 06 season, right before 06-07 season, I think it was exactly right before Danny Briere left there to come here. They were under a regime change there, and there was talk that they were getting rid of all their scouts and going completely to video scouting. Mm-hmm. And that did not work, obviously. They were going to try to be on the cutting edge of something that didn't work out. And, unfortunately for the fans in Buffalo, they've kind of paid for it since then. But, it is a team that is slowly getting better. It is on the way up. They've got a couple of really good young pieces there right now. And, they've gotten, the whole Jack Eichel thing out of their way. So we shall see where that takes them. But, yeah, that's another franchise you want to see up there battling with everybody.
Yeah, I love what Jack Eichel said the other night after getting booed there.
Yeah.
That was good. He said it's the loudest I've heard it in 7 years.
All I had to do was leave.
Yeah, all I had to do was leave. Oh, that's great. One of the guys that's really excelled under Martin St. Louis is a guy of similar stature, and that would be Cole Caulfield. Now, we know Caulfield, what he was able to do with the U.S. National Team Development Program at Wisconsin as well. Not the biggest guy. He's listed at 5'9". I'm not buying that for a minute, that he's 5'9".
No, absolutely
he's 5'9".
not.
I'm 6 foot.
No, yeah.
In his last 10 games since Marty St. Louis took over, how about 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points, and a +4? He was having a poor season prior. That's amazing, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's again a very, very highly touted prospect that is, a lot of is one of those guys is very flashy. You've got prospects out there that are just solid hockey players, and you got flashy ones, and he's a flashy one. So that carries a little bit of a higher expectation with him.
Yeah, he's a dynamic player, a skilled scorer, and a guy that they're counting on to do a lot there. And the Flyers passed up on him twice. So this is Caulfield versus York tonight in a lot of ways.
Yep.
33 games before that this season, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. 13 in 10 games since the coaching change.
Yeah. And then again, we've seen it here too. There's been some key Flyers pieces that since the coaching change have had completely different seasons than they did in the first 6 weeks or so. Sometimes that's all it needs. Just not necessarily a different voice to the whole organization, but also guys have different ways of using certain players, and he's one of them that's dealt with that.
The interesting thing is remember a couple of years ago in the bubble in Toronto, the Flyers, first of all, Montreal gets in because of the expanded 2014 field, and they upset the Pittsburgh Penguins in the play-in round. So the Flyers get them in the first round. It was a 5-game series, but it was much closer than you would think looking back. Go, it's 5 games, not that stressful. Was it 5 or 6? I think it was maybe 6.
Yeah, I think it was 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Flyers end up winning it, but Montreal gave them everything. Carey Price was fantastic. Carter Hart was fantastic, and they were a team that, that eventually the next year would go on a run, get out of the North Division, and go all the way to the Cup final. Couldn't complete the task. Tampa won back-to-back cups.
Yep.
But 2 years ago in that bubble, to see these two teams where they are that quickly is astounding.
And again, it was. I think for Montreal too, it was a little bit of a mirage last year. The bubble itself, and then last season was kind of survival of the fittest, if you will, and just in terms of the teams that were best able to deal with the circumstances. The Flyers, I think, were a better team in 2020 than they showed in the bubble, but coming out of that long stoppage, it started right around this time 2 years ago. And then getting ready and going into the bubble, they just didn't. They didn't quite adapt to the circumstances as well as some other teams did. I don't think the Dallas Stars were anybody's favorite to come out of the West that year before the pandemic hit, but they managed to, to do what they needed to do inside the bubble and accomplished it well. And then last year, I think Montreal was kind of the same way. I mean, it's not. It's definitely not common to see a team go from the Stanley Cup final to
house to the outhouse.
8 wins at Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But that's just a byproduct of the kind of times we're living in.
And you just see how much some impact players not being there anymore affected them. You look at a player like Philip Deneau, who signed as a free agent with the Los Angeles Kings, and Deneau this season having a good year offensively too, 35 points, 17 of them goals. And he's a great 200-foot player that really balanced them out, and that was a big loss for them. Then you couple that with, a guy like Shea Weber, who commands everything on the back end, and then obviously the goaltending of Carey Price. I mean, tonight the goaltenders are Matumbo is going to start. Caden Primo's the backup. The Hamburglar from back in the Ottawa run many years ago has been playing games for them. And Jake Allen. I mean, it's a mess.
I'm not too sure what the reasoning is behind the goaltending choice tonight for Montreal, given that Montembeault played last night.
Yeah.
This is a Montreal team, by the way, that they were home last night, played Seattle, had to get on a plane, go through customs, fly here in whatever weather we had in the middle of the night last night. Thankfully, I was not awake for it. But, it had to have been a long night for them. And I'm a little bit surprised that they decided to go with the same guy back-to-back, especially after the game Primo had against the Flyers earlier this year. But
shootout win.
But it is what it is. I guess we'll see how that pays off for them. Flyers are obviously going to use both their goaltenders in this back-to-back set. So, it's an interesting call there.
Yeah, good goaltending performance yesterday from Martin Jones for the Flyers against Carolina. Ultimately ended up being a 3-1 loss. They had the empty netter as well. And as you mentioned, Montembeault goes last night for the Canadiens. I'm trying to see kind of workload he had in that game last night. I'll bring it up now. But they end up losing to Seattle last night, and they go all the way to the shootout to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's a regulation loss.
Everything was even later.
Yeah, 34 shots on goal last night for Seattle. So
and
decent workload.
I don't know that it's been a decade since I've been there, but I think the Montreal's airport is particularly close to downtown, so they get the drive to get the airports after the shootout and
7-round shootout.
Yeah, wow,
one goal. It's like a Flyers shootout.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, do the rest of the teams go through shootouts the way we do? Because it's crazy to me how much of the advantage seems to go to the goaltenders in these situations.
Yeah, I think it's about like 80%.
Wow,
the goaltender.
That is nuts. I remember
advantage goalie. I love
2010. And the Flyers had really no business winning in a shootout against the New York Rangers because Henrik Lundqvist was like a 70% save percentage at that time.
We're going to join our radio audience here. That's right. Welcome to Flyers Game Day, live from the Wells Fargo Center. It's Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus, getting everybody ready for Flyers and Montreal Canadiens hockey. 3 games in 4 days for the Flyers. Each team did play yesterday. I'm not sure if Montreal played on Thursday, so is it 3 and 4 for them as well? Maybe a question that we should maybe investigate. Probably should have done that before we got on the air.
Let me see how fast I can page through this document, and I'll tell you.
Yeah. But the Flyers 3 and 4 days here, and they're going to try and end this little skid that they're on. 2-game losing streak. They won 2 heading into these games. They lose on Thursday. And then they lost yesterday against the Carolina Hurricanes. They lost to Florida on Thursday. So, the Montreal Canadiens prior to yesterday played on Wednesday against
it was not
in Vancouver.
It's not a 3 and 4, but they are coming off of a 5-game road trip with the game against Seattle yesterday. It was through Western Canada. They went out to Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg. They did that run over the first 10 days of March. And then they're here tonight. Now they're going to go home and play a 6-game homestand. So they're going to get a little bit settled back in after tonight. They're going to play the Arizona Coyotes on Tuesday in a battle of 2 teams that suddenly seem to have figured it out. I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but they are unstoppable all of a sudden. So that'll be an interesting game on Tuesday. But yeah, they've been they had a little more time off than the Flyers, but they also had a lot of travel involved in that as well.
And tonight is the 999th game of Claude Giroux's career. 1,000 will come up on Thursday on St. Patrick's Day against the Nashville Predators tonight, 999, but he's also looking for 900 point tonight.
Yep, he
not bad.
Might have had it yesterday. The Derek Brassard goal, I believe he would have gotten an assist if that goal had stood. Actually, I'm sorry, Brassard was the one that collided with the goaltender. It was Atkinson's goal. So that might have been the number there, but I think these are milestones that he certainly doesn't mind setting in front of the home crowd if at all possible. And the way he's been going as of late, it's been hard to keep him off the scoreboard in consecutive games recently. So I think we're seeing it. If not tonight, maybe it'll coincide with 1,000 on Thursday.
Yeah, and that'll be quite the affair on Thursday. Longest tenured captain in Flyers history, and knocking right on the door of the NHL trade deadline. I think initially he missed one game because of COVID. This would have been the game, which would have been ironic as a French Canadian against Montreal to have that 1,000th game. But it didn't work out.
He missed a total of 5 games this year, I believe, because of COVID. He's missed 10 in the last 2 years, all because of COVID. Or I'm sorry, he's missed 10. He's missed 10 as captain. I'm sorry, I got my numbers all mixed up in my head. He's missed 10 in the last decade, but 5 of them, half of those have been because of COVID. And I think you're right. It might have only been 1 this year. It was a bunch last year, and when it ran through the team right before the Lake Tahoe game in February. But yeah, if not for that shakeup and some of the other rescheduling, it might have been against this team.
So in 998 career games, 290 goals, 609 assists, 899 points, a plus 28. He has a shooting percentage of 11.2% and has averaged in his entire career 19 minutes and 37 seconds ice. That's a lot.
That's a good shooting percentage for your career.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's a decent number. You want to have better numbers than that over a season if possible. And he's had hot and cold years. He had that 102-point season a while back.
17.6 that year.
That's a pretty good average to keep up over his career.
Yeah, he's never been a goal scorer. That 102-point season in 17-18, he had 34 goals that year. That's a career high for a season, but 68 assists.
Yeah.
He also in that season was a plus 28 on the year.
Mm-hmm.
But the other area where he's really valuable is in the faceoff circle.
Oh my goodness!
And I mean, 61.1% this season. And it's not like he takes minimal amount of draws; he takes them all.
And his career number there is a little skewed because he really got on it halfway through his career.
14-15 is when he really jumped.
That's when he really came into his own as a faceoff guy. And they weren't tracking this then, but they are now. The defensive zone draws, especially, is where he is so valuable. He wins an insane number of defensive zone draws, which after the rule change a few years back, that's where you have the disadvantage. But he seems to feed off it, and it gives you possession in a lot of really dangerous situations.
Let me put you on the spot. How many faceoffs do you think a player like Claude Giroux takes so many key draws has taken in his 998 games total?
Oh, I mean, I would. He's around. I'm now blanking on the numbers that I look up all the time. I think, he's around at least a few hundred a year. So, I would say we're looking at
way
about
more than that.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking about close to 5,000 then.
17,104 over his career.
Face-offs? Oh wow.
He's got 9,544 face-off wins, 7,560 face-off losses in one season before Couturier. 828 face-offs won, 715 lost. He had 1,000 years where he had over 1,000 face-off wins.
I'm
Couturier is the left side guy.
Yeah, and I'm a little skewed there too because he went to wing a few years ago when Couturier came up to that top line, and the numbers started to go down a little bit for him. But before that, he was all over the place.
Yeah, and now because Couturier has been injured, when he takes a draw on the left side, he does it left-handed as a right-hand shot and wins most of those. It's astounding. But it's the Flyers and the Canadiens tonight. And Morgan Frost is going to be on the top line with Claude Giroux in this game. And Cam Atkinson, he's not going to be in the middle. He's going to play the left wing. So it's Giroux, Atkinson, and Frost. So we'll see what kind of chemistry can develop there. Obviously, 3 players that aren't the largest in stature, but a lot of skill out there on the ice with those 3 guys. So something to keep an eye on. It'll be Carter Hart getting the start for the Flyers here against the Montreal Canadiens tonight. It is career game 999 for Giroux. 1,000 comes Thursday, but stay tuned because Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, I was with them earlier. They are chomping at the bit to give you the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action coming up right after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.